top Arizona Republicans are begging their allies to stop it with all the nonsense election conspiracy theories. To that I say, good luck. According to a report in the Arizona Mirror, the newly launched Democracy Defense Project, which is a bipartisan group of current and former politicians, has the goal of bolstering the faith in the election system. They are now urging Republicans in Arizona to stop with the attacks, specifically on the Maricopa County election systems. Now, the launch, announced earlier this week, came after a temporary election worker had allegedly stolen a ballot tabulator key from the county earlier this month. Now, that man was arrested. I remember doing the report. The key was recovered. Everything was changed, in order to re-secure everything. But in the wake of that, many of the same people who had claimed without any evidence that the 2020 and 2022 elections had been stolen ended up spreading wild conspiracy theories about the theft, because of course they did. Now, one of the board members of the Democracy Defense Project is a former Republican congressman named Matt Salmon, who had told the Arizona Mirror that he decided to join this effort after bearing witness to the ruination of the Republican Party in the state, which I think is pretty funny, considering, he has history with helping in that ruination. Now, here's what he said. Quote, "It makes me really sad because I've always believed so strongly in the principles that the Republican Party has upheld. And they're more interested now in chasing rabbits down holes than they are in actually doing the job." Okay, he's right, but this is a guy who played suck up to Steve Bannon just a couple of years ago. Salmon had shared a photo of himself on social media, cozying up to his friend, Steve Bannon, who is an election denier, by the way, and called him a, quote, "true patriot and a tireless fighter for our country." Here's that picture.
Whoopsie. Whoopsie. Whoopsie.
Now, to be fair, that was when he was running in a primary against Kari Lake in order to get the nomination for the 2022 Arizona gubernatorial election. Now, Kari Lake, by the way, she has, to this day, been challenging the results of that race that she lost to Democrat Katie Hobbs. She considers herself the temporarily embarrassed governor of Arizona. Okay, so now, getting back to Mr. Salmon, he sucked up to Steve Bannon in order to try to get the nomination. He ended up losing, withdrawing, and now he is against the election denial. Interesting. Also, filing repeated unsuccessful court challenges to their losses in that same election were Abe Hameda, who ran for Attorney General, and Mark Fincham, who ran for Secretary of State. So Salmon calls them out, saying, "Hey, look, I lost interest in the 45th lawsuit. I think it's really a waste of time and money. I think it's become more of a way to keep yourself if you're in the position of filing all these lawsuits, keep your face out there in the media, keep yourself so-called relevant, and raise money." All right, look, on that issue, on that quote, he's correct. But I would say that he doesn't really have a lot of credibility on this issue and working to stop it, because when he was running for election, he really didn't do anything to try and stop this nonsense conspiracy theory. Okay? Now, along with Jan Brewer, who also is part of this, and who also does not have any credibility. In an op-ed that Brewer wrote for The Republic, she said, quote, "It's imperative that we reject baseless conspiracy theories and disinformation that seek to delegitimize our democratic institutions. False claims of widespread voter fraud not only erode public trust in elections, but also undermine the credibility of our political system writ large. Instead, we must rely on facts and evidence." Now, again, this is something that I agree with. I agree with everything that she said. I am someone who, as my career, I point out Republican misinformation on election systems, and I present that, and I debunk, help to debunk this disinformation about our election systems, okay, that Republicans continue to push. Now, that said, Jan Brewer doesn't get any credit, because when asked, "Hey, who are you going to support in the 2024 election?" she said, quote, "I will vote for him. He's the Republican nominee." Now, Salmon, he was asked the same question. He actually didn't want to share whether he planned to vote for Trump in November, which means, of course, he's going to be voting for him. I'm sorry, but the ridiculousness of this is you can't be someone who's like, hey, we need to restore the trust in the elections and then vote for an election denier. Okay? You can't support Donald Trump as the nominee. This is a guy who still is promoting Stop the Steal at his rallies. In fact, he recently told veterans at a July 4th event, okay, quote, "We're not going to let that steal go on. Stop the steal. You know the expression, stop the steal. And we're going to make sure that it's going to be secure. We're not going to take a chance. We can't have what happened last time happen again. We're not going to allow it to happen again." Stop again. Jan Brewer, is out there going, yeah, I will vote for Donald Trump. He is the Republican nominee, but we really need to put a stop to this election misinformation here, of these election conspiracies. Homeboy has been spouting election conspiracy theories for a very long time. Again, even before the 2020 election, even around 2016. If you lost to Hillary Clinton, oh, it must have been rigged. No, it's not rigged. You're just a loser. No, so understand, right, why I don't have... I'm not going to give any credit to Jan Brewer or Mr. Salmon, okay, who pals around with election deniers, just for saying, oh, we really shouldn't be, promoting election denialism. These Republicans, I am convinced that this is something. Look, a lot of Republicans knew that this election, these election conspiracy theories were nonsense. I mean, when you look at the Dominion lawsuit against Fox News, for example, producers, all these hosts, they're like, yeah, we don't believe this. Sean Hannity's like, I don't believe in this nonsense. This is ridiculous. Tucker Carlson was calling Sidney Powell an insane person. Like, oh, what a crazy person. Oh my God, she's nuts. She's going to get us in trouble. But then, at the same time, remember, the reason that they didn't come forward with the truth and continue to entertain these election conspiracy theories is their audience believes it. And they didn't want to take the risk of losing their audience to Newsmax. That's what this is about, okay? When Republicans have their elections, their power on the line, they'll say whatever they want. They'll say whatever they believe will allow them to continue being in those positions of power, even if it means lying to their own base and say, oh, yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, stop the steal. Mm-hmm, yep. And then suddenly, when they get out of power, now they're like, I cannot believe all this election denial going on in the Republican Party. You did absolutely fuck all to stop it, okay? You didn't do a damn thing. Where were you before? Where were you before? You were palling around with Steve Bannon. That's what you were doing, okay? Now, Salmon says, oh, look, a lot of the doubt that's in our nation's election systems and this election denialism, that has been spread by ultra-MAGA politicians. It's their fault. Okay, yes, people did spread this, right? And you're right about that, but you had a responsibility to try to stop it, and you didn't. Okay? You were trying to get into power, and you were too afraid to call out Donald Trump's election denial. Okay? That's the problem here. And it's not like this, voter fraud narrative is new. The Republican Party has long used this as a way to try to trick voters into doing voter suppression against the other side. Okay? And so to trick their own voters to be against democracy and say, oh, we must restrict the vote, but we're not actually restricting, we're securing it using it. They also spread BS lies that, oh, undocumented immigrants, they're busing them in and millions are voting. Not true at all. Not true at all. They're not voting in these elections. They're not voting in any elections. They're not allowed to vote. And speaking of undocumented immigrants, by the way, Jan Brewer was Donald Trump before Donald Trump on the issue of immigration. She signed the Arizona Papers, Please law, which most of got struck down by the courts. Okay, she spread all sorts of lies about immigrants, even claiming in 2010 that undocumented immigrants were doing crime and beheading people in the desert. which was not true. They weren't finding decapitated bodies out in the desert. No, in reality at the time, the vast majority of deaths that happened in Arizona, but when it came to undocumented immigrants, more than 95% of them were due to exposure to the elements. Either extreme heat in the summer or extreme cold in the winter. So the reason I bring up those lies, which are tangentially related, okay, to election denial, is to illustrate that she is the last person to really talk about what is true. Even though I agree, she is correct on the facts when it comes to the Republican Party and the election denial. But where she's coming from on it, the reason that she's doing this is not coming from a place of honesty. It's a place of political expedience. She is seeing, and other Republicans are seeing that, oh, it turns out now talking about a voter fraud is turning against us now. It is working against us. It is hurting us now, and it might depress the turnout for the party. That is the opposite of why they had spread this narrative before. It was to depress turnout on the other side. Now it's depressing their own. That's the problem, okay? So look, I support the mission of this group, and I think it's great that people are out there pushing against election misinformation and election denial. I just think that having these people on there who have no credibility, I don't think it's going to do much to convince anyone. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you become a member on our YouTube page, you become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.